and I'm the Executive Director of colorofchange.org. Color of Change is the largest online black political organization. We use the internet with our over 800,000 members to make democracy work for all of us, to hold corporations and political leaders accountable for serving all of us. The members of our community were outraged when they heard the Ohio Secretary of State was using his position to suppress the votes of black Ohioans by limiting access to early voting. More than 65,000 of our members have signed on to a petition demanding that Husted restore weekend voting hours for all Ohioans. More than 1,000 members of Ohio Organizing Collaborative, 7,000 MoveOn.org members, and 6,000 Change.org members from Ohio have also joined the campaign. And we are also proud to stand here today with Columbus with our partners from the Ohio Student Association, Stand Up for Ohio, and Fighting for Ohio Jobs. In just a moment, you're going to hear from Pastor Bob Ward of the First English Lutheran Church, Margie Daffy from Central Community House, and Awia Sharif of Ohio Student Association. They will address the importance of making voting accessible for every voter. As a civil rights organization, Color of Change is committing to make sure that there are no barriers to voting. This year, we have seen a coordinated effort across the country to pass laws to change the rules around the country, intending to make it harder for Latinos, black folks, low-income and elderly voters to exercise their basic rights. We've seen voter ID laws like the one passed just next door in Pennsylvania. We've seen voter rolls in Florida purged of eligible voters. And we've seen renewed efforts to block voting rights of ex-felons. And now in Ohio, we are seeing blatantly partisan efforts to limit early voting. This is coordinated and it's wrong, and today we stand up. Republicans like Secretary of State Husted have advocated their responsibility to keep this process of voting out of the partisan back and forth of the election year. Instead of protecting the rights of all Ohioans to vote and make it easier, they have focused on whether 100,000 Ohioans who voted during the 3 days before the 2008 election might have helped President Obama to win. They are pulling out all the stops to keep those voters from getting to the polls in 2012. This is not the job of the Secretary of State of any state in this country.
That's right.
Since early voting began in 2005, hundreds and thousands of voters have utilized and expanding the voting opportunities. Secretary Husted has taken note that black voters across the state voted early on weekends during the past election. Here in Columbus, we know that early voting was important in Franklin County. For example, black voters comprised a fifth of the population, but accounted for more than half of early votes in 2008. And nearly half of early votes in Franklin County in 2008 voted on nights or weekends. Husted's directive to end early voting is an affront to every Ohioan, every person who fought for the right to vote. And my grandfather, who I used to go in the voting booth, who couldn't read or write, but demanded his right to vote as I stood on his shoulders and read the names to him as he went into the polls to vote.
Amen.
As a black civil rights organization, we won't stand silent in the face of these voter suppressions targeted at our community. These petitions here are not just pieces of paper. They're the voices and the stories of everyday people. Voices like Sandra from Cleveland Heights, who writes, "I'm an Ohio resident, and I'm appalled at the attempt to suppress legitimate voters in our state from carrying out their responsibility to our democracy. Fix this." They're the voices of Linda, who writes, "As an Ohio voter, I expect the full range of voting opportunities to be available to me. It's my right." It's the voices of Angela of Springboro, describes the real problem with Husted's barrier to early voting. "Please extend voting hours. I work one county away at a job that is 8 to 5. We are here today in Ohio because we don't want our members like Angela to lose out on their right to vote. We will keep the pressure on. We will keep marching, we will keep raising our voices, and we will keep fighting for the right to vote for all Ohio citizens." And just a moment, you're going to hear from Pastor Bob and the other speakers. And after that, we're going to deliver these petitions as the first step of many in continuing the effort to make sure that everyday people's voices are heard, that the Secretary of State understands that there are voices in this democracy that need to be heard, not just on Election Day, but throughout the year. Pastor Bob?